the rebel militant group is establishing a salvation government after it captured the capital Damascus from the Assad regime this week. It comes as Israel firms up its military response to its neighbour. For more, we're joined by Eric Torchek in Antakya, Turkey, and Matthew Doran in Amman, Jordan. Good morning to both. Eric, starting with you, what comes next for the rebels and for Syria more generally?
So the rebels, Michael, or one particular element of the rebels, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, an Islamist group which was in charge of the northwestern part of Syria and which led this offensive, it says it's nominated Mohammed al-Bashir as a prime minister of the transitional government. And the previous prime minister, Syria's prime minister, Mohammed Jalali, he's confirmed that he will hand over responsibility to Mohammed al-Bashir, to what they call the salvation government, which is what HTS called its administration in the northwest of Syria, So what this suggests is that HTS is looking to have a dominant role in the new regime that governs Syria. This will be of concern to Western governments and a number of international observers because HTS began as a jihadist group linked with al-Qaeda, and there was in fact a bounty from the US on its leader, Abu Muhammad al-Jalali, for his capture, because he was linked to these transnational jihadist groups. HTS says it's no longer a jihadist group. It's modernized and moderated its approach. It's been instructing its fighters to avoid any of these sectarian confrontations and to act responsibly and to not impose any kind of Islamist approach on the population, the civilian population of Syria. But there's still a lot of concerns remaining about HTS and how they'll control. And there's a number of factions that are vying for a place within the transitional arrangements that are going to take place in Syria. All of this is happening in the context of continuing instability and conflict. Turkey-backed Syrian opposition groups are fighting with Kurdish militias in the north of the country. Turkey wants the Kurdish militia that fought the Islamic State terror group and which is backed by the United States. It wants it away from Turkey's border. Perhaps it wants it to disarm entirely because Turkey considers it a terrorist group. But there has been an agreement reached to end the fighting in one particular city, which means those Kurdish militants will move further east. The future of that self-governing Kurdish region in northeastern Syria is now in doubt, however.
Yeah, seems that way to you, Matthew. What are the concerns about Syria's borders?
Michael, good morning to you. There has been a lot of attention being placed on Israel's response to the toppling of the Assad regime, and in particular how it has deployed IDF troops along its borders there, or in fact into Syrian territory. We've heard from the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, saying that it was necessary to send IDF troops into the so-called buffer zone, an area which had been a demilitarized zone for many decades, since the 1970s, but which he says is now effectively, or that agreement has lapsed because the Assad regime has been toppled, and he sent IDF personnel into that area to try to take control of Syrian positions, Syrian government positions that had been abandoned as rebel forces came through. The concern is that Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel are using the toppling of the Assad regime and the regime change that is now happening as an opportunity to advance its own territorial claims. This buffer zone is between Syria and the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, a patch of land that was seized decades ago and which many countries do not actually recognise as sovereign Israeli territory. We've heard from the governments of Qatar and of Egypt. Both of them are very critical of this decision. The government in Doha saying that this is a dangerous move, and officials in Cairo saying that this is just another land grab by Israel. So a lot of attention from regional neighbours being put on the actions of the Israeli government at the moment, but many countries surrounding Syria are also looking to how this political situation will develop in the country, whether or not there will be a political vacuum, whether stability can be enforced. And it's not only because they want to see Syria prosper after many years of civil war, they are also dealing with the fallout of this civil war. If we take, for example, the country where we are in this morning, Jordan, this is a country which has accepted hundreds of thousands of refugees over the course of this civil war. More than 600,000 from Syria, and they have been in Jordan for that period of the civil war. There will now be, of course, a push to try to get those people back into Syria. Many of them will want to go, but they won't necessarily have the support that is needed. So that is why there is still a lot of uncertainty about what is happening across the border in Syria, and a lot of anxiety, I think it's safe to say, from some of the country's regional neighbours.